All right. Converted man here. Hi. Last time, I had an open letter to eternal insecurity because he kept showing up every time I looked up proof of God and stuff. I was like, I guess I have to watch a video of his. And I looked at a video and I was like, well, what's your best video for God? And he gave me one and I'm like, oh, okay. Instead of debunking it as I normally would, I thought I'll just tell him, what he needs to do in order to make a good video. And that's what I attempted to do in that open letter. And he has a response to me up. And I've listened to time index 637 of his video. He still needs to learn science and informal logic. So that's a thing that he hasn't done yet. And I don't say that to insult the man. It's just obviously clear to me, hi, Captive Desk, it's obvious that he hasn't done these things because there's Captive Desk saying hi, because what he is saying in the video so far. I'm going to play we're going to go over the video and all that, and you're going to hear what he has to say, but I warn you, it's not good. And, yeah, I don't know. All right, so I guess we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Back to when the earth and sun and stars all align. It's perfect. Sorry, that's a song. Sorry.
Honest, sincere.
Yeah, he's complimenting me about my video. I'm not used to compliments. Get past all this part. Thank you for the kind words. So
you go way out of your way to explain.
What's in those boxes behind him? What are those? What is it? What is behind him? I need to know what that is.
I'm not attacking you. I'm etc.
Let's get to the part where the relevant stuff. I'm glad that he really liked what I had to say and all that, and I appreciate his kind words. But okay, I gotta get past. The whispering video was weird. What are you talking about? What whispering video? That's a different video. We'll get back to that one later.
You haven't said anything to hurt me, which is just awesome in and of itself. But you absolutely misunderstand a few things about my position.
And that seems to be the case for a lot of people, because that video that he shared with me was simply incoherent. And in order to make a coherent video, he should learn informal logic. That will help him to get a structure for his videos from now on. It did for me at any rate. Maybe it won't work for him. I don't know. Maybe scripting out the video would be good. I'm not really sure, but his argument in that first video that he's talking about, it wasn't even an argument. It made no sense at all. And so, of course, people had backlash to it. But also, he didn't understand and still doesn't seem to understand evolution. And you'll hear why. Okay.
And so I want to go over that, and we'll kind of go methodically and slowly and hopefully carefully enough that we can tread these waters together. So again, thank you for the open letter. I think you called it the open letter to Eternal Insecurity. Here I am responding, and I'm sending it back in this video format. So one of the things that you stated is that you got from my video somehow or another that I thought, feelings were an evidence for God. Not close, not even close. I don't think that is helpful at all. And that may be one of the reasons that video took so much heat, etc., is people are just coming at it from a position that they think they understand, and then maybe that's why it looks so terrible and awful to them.
Right. And to make a video argumentation, which is what you're attempting to do, you're going to want, ideally, one way to do it. There's many ways to do it, but if we're going to give an argumentation, we're going to want to use a system of informal logic because that's what is used for arguments. So you have premise one, premise two, and a conclusion. You can have more than two premises, but I advise against it whenever possible because, of course, the more premises you have, the more likely it is that you're going to create a logical fallacy. One has to connect to the other, has to connect to the conclusion. They both have to join together to get from point A to point B to point B to point C. So A is B, B is C, therefore A is C. And that's what you're going to want, like print it out on the screen or said out loud or what have you, so that people go, oh, okay, his argument is fill in the blank because there it is for all to see. Now, it's possible, no matter how hard you work at anything, that people will misunderstand you. It's bound to happen. But at least that way, you'll have something that we can examine. But your first video is basically, the seals, or I think it was, or dolphins, whatever it was, can do this thing that we can't do, but some humans can feel God, and I guess therefore God. You're going to clarify it here, but this clarification, well,
and I can see it. And so the longer I listened to your video, and you made sure that you told me that you had a grasp on evolution and logic, and I really needed to catch up on those things, because if I was up on those things, I wouldn't be so far afield or so far out of whack. And so if I was you, looking at the Eternal Insecurity channel, if I had certain biases, such as this guy is a disillusioned theist, it sounds to me like he doesn't understand evolution. It sounds like to me he doesn't understand logic. I can see how you would think I'm completely lost and in the dark.
No, it's not about biases. That you have a belief in God doesn't matter one bit. I'm not biased against you or anyone else for that matter. I try very hard not to be. I simply look at the argument that is stated. You don't even have an argument in that first video, nor do you have an argument here, but that's okay because this is a letter of a sort, and it's more like an essay than anything else. But you don't offer an argument in that first video that I was talking to you about in my open letter to you, because you don't have the premise one, premise two, conclusion format. So you don't have the argument. What you do have is a misunderstanding of biological evolution and a misunderstanding of science and a clear misunderstanding and non-understanding of informal logic, because you simply aren't using it. That's not bias. That's just pointing out what isn't there.
But let's back off of that and take a big picture view. And that's the reason I really like your personal appeal there. Your personal approach is that we can step back and look at the big picture. So I need you to understand, I do not think at all that feelings are the evidence for God that an atheist needs to convert. That
is good, because that is correct. Atheists do not want to hear about people's feelings, nor broadly speaking. There might be some atheists that does, but with my limited scope of atheists that I know, that small sample size, none of those people I would think would want to know about feelings, nor personal experience. I had a rough life, but then I found Jesus and everything was great. okay, cool. We can find a Hindu that says the same thing. We can find a Muslim. We can find a Scientologist. We can find anybody from any given belief system. In fact, we can find lots of atheists that say, my life was pretty rough, but then I became an atheist and things were better. In fact, I had an interview with somebody that said life was really rough. But then when he became an atheist, it's like life became a lot easier. It was like the god of atheism was shining down his blessing upon him or something. That was obviously hyperbolic because he doesn't believe that there is a god of atheism, and neither do I. But the idea is he had a rough time of things, but once he deconverted, he didn't. So that must mean it's true. Wait, no, that's not the conclusion that we could reach from that. Whatever people experience inside of their head is feelings and personal experiences. And we do not, care, I guess. I mean, we care. Yes, we care, but we don't need that. We don't want that. And that's not evidence at all. And so, yes, if all you have is personal experience about God, then you cannot and should not call your video proof of God. You should call it why I believe in God. And we will be like, yeah, okay, whatever, we don't care. I'll move on. We only care when you make a positive claim about reality, broadly speaking.
That was not the point of such things. It was actually to get people to think about if evolution is building products and there's always this upgrade and there's a new upgrade and everything's getting more positive and more positive and more positive.
Okay, now I tried to write my comment, but YouTube may or may not have eaten my comment. So I'm going to be reading my response to him because it's a good response. And at 4:33, which we're at now, I said, nope, this is not what evolution is. And this is part of why you need to learn more about it. It is not about getting upgrades or being more and more positive. What it is adaptation to the environment. Some people have adaptations that others do not, but nothing that's beyond the natural world. And if someone had such a unique mutation that does something we've never seen before, we'd want to understand that, but we would have to have an actual example of it. It's not enough to just posit that someone could do that. Now I'm not. That's what I wrote. Now I'm off my own script. If my comment appears on his video, you should be able to see it. But I don't show it. So see, you see the screen? I can't read anything I wrote because it shrinks. Okay, here we go. All right. So that's okay. That's that paragraph. Okay. Okay. Now I'm no longer on my script that I wrote out there. Which is why I don't know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. So no, he gets evolution wrong immediately off the bat. He's like, if evolution is this, well, it's not that. So whatever argument you're going to make about evolution is going to be automatically wrong if you're basing it off of the idea that you have that's also wrong. Okay, so no, evolution isn't about what you're saying, so therefore nothing else matters. It's a non sequitur, it does not follow. So no, evolution isn't about those things. And yeah, so where's the thing? Where's the video? Okay. Now why did it shrink? The text shrinks, but the video the text grows and video shrinks. It makes no sense. All right.
The point of that video was that there are human beings then in the evolutionary process that might not be as developed as other human beings are, and they might actually have some sort of sensory perception that other atheists do not, or other.
You mean like the X-Men? You know, Wolverine, Storm, Professor Xavier. You mean like that? I mean, you don't, right? You're not talking about like extrasensory powers, are you? Or maybe you are. Like some people can move things with their minds. You know, oh, I can lift this lobster. Well, I can move it with my mind technically because my hand is connected to my mind. But you know, without the use of my hands, that I could make it levitate and float around. You know, are you talking about that, or I don't know what you're talking about, because you're not talking about actual evolution. So, in essence, you're not really talking about anything real at all, anyways. So, but yeah, some people will have abilities that others don't. And yeah, that's true. Some of us can jump higher or lift more weight or run faster, but it's always going to be constrained to the natural world because we're natural creatures. And if you think that there's something more than that, okay, then demonstrate that.
Other people do not, I guess, to stay in the concept there. And that is a very valid and very logical point if you'll step back now and reevaluate it.
But it's not, because you're basing it on the wrong idea of evolution. You're thinking that evolution is about building up, when it's not. It's about surviving your environment. That's it. It's adapting to the environment we have. Now, humans have kind of screwed ourselves over in a way because we don't adapt to the environment. We make the environment adapt to us. We build buildings and wear clothes. So we've kind of stopped in one way of adapting to nature. But now our bodies will adapt to the environment that we have created for it over time. And that may or may not be good. Who knows? You will have people that survive inside really well, but can't go outside because they won't survive out there. Of course, people do go outside, so, but I'm saying, like, if you had a group of people that only lived indoors, they would slowly adapt to that environment. And this is why, if we sent people onto Mars, they would adapt to Mars. They'd adapt to the gravity there. And then they couldn't come back to Earth. Well, they might be able to come back to Earth for a limited amount of time, I'm not sure. But their body would be very different. If they lived only in outer space, they would adapt to that, and their bone structure would be very different. And so, yeah, we adapt to the environment we find ourselves in. Not just humans, but all creatures do. All living things do. So your idea that we're getting better is wrong. Therefore, nothing can logically flow from that idea.
If that's not clear enough, we shouldn't assume that all humans are in the exact same place if we believe in evolution. Again, this is me.
Well, we don't need to believe in evolution because we know that it's true. There's overwhelming amounts of data on it, which is why you should learn about it, because it's obvious by what you're saying that you don't know what you're talking about, not even a little bit. You've gotten evolution wrong. That's at the end. I don't know what else to say, you know?
Stepping from my side of the fence and coming over to your side of the fence. And
okay, so my written response was at 5:17. There you go again. Evolution is on both sides of the fence because it is a part of reality that we share. It is not something you must ignore or deny because you think there's a God. If there is a God, then it used evolution to get us where we are today.
And arguing from your position, logic.
There is no my position. In regards to biological evolution, there is the fact of the matter that it is real. That isn't my position. It is just the true nature of reality. It is our position. Whether you like it, accept it, or understand it or not, biological evolution is real. Please learn it.
Logically. So the mistake then that atheists often make is that they believe that everybody's the same.
Please, by all means, tell me what I believe and think and feel. I love it when people do this. Sarcasm heavily implied there. Don't tell me what I think, feel, or believe. Ask me. No, I don't believe that all humans are the same. I don't think any atheist does. So this is wrong. Maybe you meant something else by this. I don't know. But I try to not say theist X, Y, and Z because I don't want to go after every theist. So do the courtesy of that for atheists. We're not a mono think tank. We're very different people with different ideas about things. So ask us what we think, feel, and believe. Don't just assume that we think, feel, or believe any given thought.
Everybody's the same. And because I know my insides, then I know the insides of other people. And so if I don't sense God, then another person can't sense God. Now, in some ways, I would stick with that framework of logic because that's kind of the framework of logic that I come from.
Okay, so we're back to feelings again. You're talking about the feeling of God, which you've already said that you understand that that's not something that atheists want in regards to evidence of God. In fact, it isn't evidence of God. It's evidence of feelings. The thing that you experience that you currently think is God, I once upon a time also experienced. But when I deconverted, I realized that it was never God. It was always me. And if we're going to base everything on my internal experience versus your internal experience, mine showed me that God isn't real. So I guess God isn't real. I once believed that I felt God, but then I learned that it's just a feeling, that it's produced by me, and I can reproduce it on demand. I have to be in the right mindset to do so, but I can do it. I can make myself feel like God is there with me as an atheist, and it feels identical and sometimes even better than when I was a theist. Now, there's no way for me to measure that it is identical or more without some sort of machine, but I'd also have to go back in time with that machine to measure my past self. There isn't a way to do that. Thankfully, there have been studies done on this. Not a lot, but there have been some. So in regards to this, I wrote, we do? I don't think we do believe that everyone is the same. Rather than what we say or think, ask what we think. Oh, sorry. I wrote, rather than think what we say or think, ask what we think. Wasn't really well written. Oh, well, whatever. Because I do not think all humans are the same. Some humans need to learn about subjects to grow in the understanding of the world we exist in so they can perhaps make good arguments. Other humans already know about the subject they're talking about, but still do not make good arguments because they need to learn how to debate. That was in reference to you guys feel whatever. This was at 550. You think that you're sensing God. This God is something that has not yet been proven to be a thing. It is a feeling. The God helmet is a device that was placed on people's heads who then reported feelings of God, with an asterisk there. Thus, we can induce the feeling of God by artificial methods or means. What is more, there is a fake helmet that was used on people that did nothing. This placebo God helmet was put on people who then reported they felt God. Again, with the asterisk. Well, I didn't put asterisk, but there's an asterisk there. So this is a feeling that can be produced by people if they're told they will feel God or should feel God. The same happens when people go to church, just without any helmet needed. The same thing can happen to you if you're quiet or and pray or meditate or go into a prayer closet, etc. You're setting up your body to be ready for this feeling of God, and thus the feeling is produced. This is the natural explanation of this feeling that people have. However, it doesn't mean there's no God, just that the feeling alone is not enough to know what the feeling is of. And uh, the explanation for the God thing I wrote, because I'm being honest, I said the God is not always produced in these studies. Sometimes mystical experience is used as the expression. Regardless, people do feel things in a real or fake God helmet, and our brains do cool things to us. More study is needed, but I think what studies have been done strongly suggest that the feeling of God is just that, a feeling. And then I wrote, YouTube eating my comment, I guess. So that's the end of my written response thus far.
I do know about the internal me, so that helps me know the internal me of other people. But the problem is to be logically coherent in the atheistic system, if they are relying upon evolution, is that if you do know the internal thoughts of you and that you don't feel God, you have to make allowance that other people on the inside might be more developed than you are in the evolutionary spectrum.
That's not. No, because that's not what evolution is. Uh, I experienced God when I was a believer, or at least I thought it was God, but it turns out it was me the whole time. And, for all I know, you're doing the same thing to yourself. You want to test it and find out? I could figure out a test we could produce if you're willing to do so. We could see if we can induce the feeling of God in you artificially. Then what? What does that mean? Does that mean God's aware that we're trying to test it and comes in and makes you feel God just so that, it's like, so there's no way to test it? Or is there a way to test it? You tell me, because some people say God is untestable. But what you feel is God is just a feeling that you say is God. You do not know that it is God. And it's nothing to do with you being more or less developed, because that's not a thing. If you're suggesting that your brain is different, of course it's different. Different people have different brains. If you want someone that didn't experience God, you're going to want to read Langston Hughes's essay called Salvation. I'll put a link in the description. There's a person that did not experience God but wanted to. Now, explain to me, you seem to be aware of the fact that people don't experience God at all. Explain to me, under the God hypothesis, why that would be the case. Why would some humans not be able to feel God, but others would? Why would some humans attribute this God feeling to not your God, but a different God completely? Why would God allow itself to be felt by different humans believing in different things about God? Please explain.
And might be sensing God in a way that you're not or not capable of. The whole reason of mentioning the seal, the whole entire mentioning of that was just that it was another being that could sense something that you could not. And since, according to evolutionary theology, since all
Evolutionary theology?
animals and mammals are from the same materialistic source, then I should very well know that just because a pit viper can see with heat vision, I forget what that's called, infrared, I think it's infrared. Just because they can see with heat vision doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that I don't experience it. And maybe we're divorced in this long evolutionary chain, but that doesn't make it not so.
Yes, but there's machines and devices that we can use so we can see infrared and thermo temperatures of different things. So where's the device that lets us see God? Oh, there isn't one, right? It's not equivalent.
But that's the argument. That's the actual atheist argument, is that you can't know God by feelings because I can't know God by feelings.
There you go again, telling me what my argument is. That is not the atheist argument. In fact, there is no the atheist argument because, well, every atheist will have a different argument. So, no, there is no the atheist argument. What I do is just show you that your argument is flawed. I don't need to have an argument for anything. I just don't believe in this thing that people call God. I don't even know what God is until they tell me what they think God is. God is so evidently hidden that I cannot detect it at all. And it's not because I don't feel things that I think are God, because I once did and now I know better, but because that's it. That's all there seems to be, is people say they feel God. Cool. Good story, bro. Needs dragons. And prove God. Not with your feelings or experiences, because that's not proof, but demonstrate that there's a God there to feel in the first place. And we've never gotten that from any theist ever, and we never will, unless I'm wrong, and that would be cool to find out. I don't think that you're going to show us that we're wrong here, though. And the only way that you could hope to do so would be by learning informal logic and science, broadly speaking, but specifically biological evolution, since you keep referencing it. Learn those two things, and maybe you might have a chance to convince us that we're wrong. But right now, you're not doing a good job. No, my argument against God, if I don't have just one, I have many. But it's very simple. There's no empirical evidence, repeatable test, or sound argument for God. So I don't believe in it. There you go. That's it. One of those three things needs to be present: empirical evidence, repeatable test, or a valid and sound argument, which I just call sound argument. Okay, so empirical evidence is visible. This is a lobster toy. It's a stuffed lobster. Empirical evidence of this stuffed lobster is right here. That's empirical evidence. Now, not all empirical evidence is visible just with your naked eye. Some need special devices to see the evidence in that way. Cool. If we don't have empirical evidence, then hopefully we have a repeatable test. We want a repeatable test because we want to make sure we're not being fooled, because people can use sleight of hand and other magician type tricks to try to fool people. We don't want to be fooled by what we're seeing, so we're going to need to test it in controlled conditions over and over again to figure out what's going on. If you, for some reason, don't have any way to test the phenomenon in question for some reason, then hopefully we would have a valid and sound argument. A valid argument is one that is constructed correctly with at least two premises and a conclusion, and a sound argument is where all the premises are true. So it matters also to be sound, it has to be valid. So you could just shortcut and say sound argument. So, one of those three things is what I need to prove God to me. And I dare say that if we got any of those three things, it would probably convince many atheists as well. Maybe not all, but a lot of them. I would share the valid and sound argument. I'd talk about it all the time because it would be cool to know. But so far, every argument I've ever analyzed regarding God's existence has had one or more logical fallacies. You, sir, are producing many logical fallacies because of your lack of understanding in regards to biological evolution. Until you learn about that subject, everything that you're going to say about it is probably going to be wrong, more than likely. So, please educate yourself for the love of humanity.
At least in one sense. Another sense is that just because you have emotions doesn't make something true. Just because you have these emotions don't make something true. But then that gets kind of weird as well, because materialistically speaking, if we were just being flat materialist, then there has to be something that evokes those emotions, some kind of real trigger. Maybe you could just push that down to thoughts.
Boo! Did I scare you? Maybe, maybe not. Was that a real thing? Maybe. Yeah. Ever watched a scary movie and get scared? The movie's not real, but it invokes in us feelings of fear if it's done well, or it has one of those pop-up things, you know. So yeah, there's something that causes those feelings, but that doesn't make the thing true. We can scare you with a movie that's not true. So, yeah, there's an explanation for it. You don't know the explanation. I told you, there. As far as God goes, we're really good at imagining things. We can pretend that somebody's at our door about to knock. And we can pretend that it's a bad guy that's out to harm us. And we can tell the story to each other so effectively that we start to scare ourselves and each other, even though there's nobody at the door. Ah! Oh, okay. Now there wasn't anyone at the door. Did I scare you that time? Okay, maybe not. All right. I will get you one of these times, though. But my point is, we're good at telling stories. The feeling of God is a feeling that we produce in our brains. Not everybody can, but some people can. And it's just a feeling because we don't have a God to show is causing that feeling. The idea of God has been suggested, and then you're told or suggested how you should feel about it or whatever, and you develop these things inside your head. And so if you're in the right circumstance, then you can feel God. Probably when you're calm, but not always. Some people can experience God even if they're hyper alert or angry or upset, but some people can't. I can't. I can only feel that sensation that I used to call God when I'm very calm and meditate and get deep into my thoughts. That I can do it. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, got it a little bit. All right. Anyways, but I can't demonstrate that to anybody. I can't prove that I felt the thing up and down my spine, even though I did, unless I had some machinery equipped to me. And that would be interesting. Like, look what I can do. Cool, I can produce this feeling. And what if you produce that feeling too on that machine? If I can produce this feeling of God on demand, what does that mean then? Does God interact with the skeptic, trying to say I'm here every time I demand that God appear to me, but only under certain circumstances? But even though I'm not saying that it's God anymore? Or is it just a feeling that I'm producing? I think it's probably just a feeling I'm producing. If that's all you got, then you ain't got nothing. And if you don't understand where the feeling comes from, that's not anything either. That's an appeal to ignorance.
I could see that angle if you want to just totally reduce it to thoughts. But the problem again here is that as an evolutionary atheist, you really don't know if someone else is sensing God or not, and so you can't really call them liars for doing so. Or
Now, I have no doubt that people think that they feel God. I also once felt that way myself. I just don't know that there's a God there to feel. Yet you can call the feeling anything you want, and people have. That doesn't make it anything other than just a feeling that we have labeled in a certain way. That's it. It's a feeling. End of story. Whew.
or can't rule it out of your mind that they're not because you're not. That's not logical. And I wouldn't put it in the category of feelings, because as a Christian myself, I'm telling you that the feeling of God is not like your other feelings.
But it is, actually. Now, people who have done various drug experiments, which I highly recommend against and will not be talked about in my channel, there's certain letters that people bring up about this that produce God when you take certain medicine that has D in it. I got sick and tired of hearing about this. No, it makes you trip. It makes your brain do things. And they swear up and down that it's more real than reality. That trip feels more real. And there's psychological explanations of why that is. You're going to have to learn psychology to understand those explanations broadly. But basically, it disconnects your brain's sense of self. So your brain doesn't feel connected to your body anymore. And that is weird, apparently. I've never done it, nor do I want to do it, and I'm not interested in those who have done it. But at any rate, according to these people that trip out on various psychedelics, they feel more real in that reality than they do in this reality. And some people then say, well, that means there's other dimensions. Ooh, no, it doesn't. You're just tripping out. Your brain is fried. You're nuked, man. You've screwed up your brain. That's what's really going on. You're no longer connected to reality anymore. If there's another dimension, we're not going to access it with LSD or whatever. We're going to access it through some sort of machine or whatever. At least that's the only way that we could prove that we've accessed such a dimension. So I don't disbelieve people when they say that they feel like they felt God. It doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah, that's nice. Now show me God. Show me the God. That's show me. That's it. Just here's lobster on my head. See? Wasn't that hard? Now, if God would levitate this lobster off of my head, then that would show me that there's probably a God that's able to levitate the lobster off my head. One of these days it's going to happen, right? Come on, God. Levitate the lobster. Do it. Do it. Come on. Please. Nothing. Every time. Wait, I have another idea. Oh, lobsterist. Laud, the great and powerful. Levitate this. Oh, my God. Did you see that? Oh, wow. That was amazing. I guess Laud is real then. Anyway, sorry. Back to the video.
And the only reason we would use the term feeling is because there's really no other way or wording to describe it, but it is not like bodily chemistry feelings. It's a different caliber of feeling. So the seal application there stands. It is logical. But let me back off a little bit more, because I think during some of our conversation, I was asking the question, what is the groundwork for logic? And you assumed, and I'm taking this from the intent in your voice. I'm taking it from the intent in your voice. Again, we're not attacking here, and we have to make certain assumptions about the wording and the selection of how people are saying things and their emotional input into something. And surely you know that we do this. I know that you know that we do this. So when I ask the question, what is the foundation of logic, or why do we need logic, etc., it's not because that I'm not familiar with logic.
Yeah, it is. If you're asking why we need logic, then you don't understand logic. There's no reason to ask that question.
It's because I was wondering, are you familiar with the background of logic?
Yes, I am, but you're not, clearly. What's a modus ponens, hypothetical syllogism, disjunctive syllogism, and modus tolios? Do you know the difference between informal and formal logic? I do. Can you structure a truth table? Do you know what a truth table even is? Do you know what a logical fallacy is and why we should avoid them? No? Huh? Yeah? I mean, you really want to test me on informal logic? Yeah, sure. Let's put it to a test. Let's ask, I don't know, somebody, either a human or ChatGPT, to ask us logic questions and see who gets a better score at that. But you're not allowed to cheat. I would win hands down. I know the logical underpinnings of logic. But if you're asking why we need logic, you don't know that. And that's evident. It's evident that you do not know informal logic by the fact that you have not used informal logic even a little. You keep saying the word logic, but like that one movie says, you keep saying that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Notice I say informal logic because I'm stating what type of logic I'm using, because there are different types of logic. There's mathematical logic, there's symbolic logic, and then there's formal and informal logic. And there's some other logics as well, but that's good enough. Did you know that? I did, without looking it up. Now, I'd have to look up the rest because I didn't memorize all of them. And I'll be honest. Anyways, so there's your response to that.
Have you thought through that?
No, I didn't need to think through it. I needed to study it.
Have you really spent time thinking about that?
No, I didn't spend any time thinking about it at all. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, I have. You haven't. Obviously. I mean, you like the word logic, but you don't use it. You're not using informal logic or logic at all. You think that you are, but you're not. Now, the first time I was nice to you because I told you you need to educate yourself. And I told you I don't need a response, but you made the response. And now you're just saying things that aren't true and that are meant to be irritating. And you've done it. You've irritated me. So congratulations. But if you plan to sit there and try to armchair philosopher me, I will win that because I know how to debate. And you will lose, and you won't even know why you lost. I'm dead serious. You want to debate? Cool. But you're going to have to agree to rules that you won't agree to, because it will be a fair debate, and it will be a scoring system that counts up logical fallacies. So you better have a syllogism ready as well as citations. Oh, the topic of debate? Oh, you want a topic? Well, how about the logical underpinning of the true nature of reality? You go ahead and do that. I will pick the side that says we don't know and defend that side. You go ahead and pick the side that says we know everything because there's a God, right? Because God would be the logical underpinning of reality if there's a God, right? So we should know everything there is to know about reality since there's a God, but we don't seem to know everything there is to know. In fact, if you only go with various different teachings of different religions, you actually wind up knowing very little about reality. Isn't that interesting? How's this for a fun fact? In the Bible, the word logic is mentioned how many times? How about the word science? How about the word math? How many times is the word faith mentioned in the Bible? Look those up. Anyways, I'm almost done with you, and I'm not even done with your video.
I'm going to go ahead and warn as well that if my video camera here runs out of footage, that I will try to finish this video up at another time. I've made space for it, but I still have a lot of old videos on here that it might interfere. But you mentioned that I didn't have a good grasp of logic, and maybe I don't have a good grasp of evolution. Let me back off and clarify this. Evolution is one of the simplest and easiest concepts for any of us to understand.
But you didn't understand it.
All it means is gradual change over long periods of time, this positive mutation over a long gradual period of time. So
you just already got it wrong again. It is a period of change over time, but it is not about let's see. All right. The process by which animals, plants, and other living organisms are transformed to different forms by the accumulation of changes over successive generations. The gradual development of something, especially from simple to more complex form. There's the simple definitions. Let's see, Merriam-Webster, descent with modification from pre-existing species, cumulative inherited change in a population of organisms through time leading to the appearance of new forms, the process in which new species or populations of living things develop from pre-existing forms through successive generations. Nothing is said there about it getting better. That isn't a thing in evolution. So you're getting that wrong. Okay? You don't know what you're talking about, especially because you keep saying if evolution, this, that, and the other. What do you mean if? Evolution is true. Biological evolution with descent by natural selection and modification is true. We are apes. We are animals. We're part of the animal kingdom. All that is true. So I don't know why you keep going if evolution and like acting like evolution is an atheist thing. It's not. Evolution is reality. And it's clear that you don't get it.
So there's not a hard grasp there to understand. What is a hard grasp to understand is how we believe in that when there's these long, enormous gaps of no evolution happening.
I don't want to do it. No. I'm done. I'm sorry, my friends. I am. I'm done. I can't anymore. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm at 11:16. Time index 11:16. I give up. I'm done. I can't help this guy. He's too ignorant for me. I tried the first time. I was nice. I was polite. I told him he needed to learn this stuff. He's just saying shit that's not true. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and it's pissing me off. Really, like seriously, I'm getting angry at his ignorance. So I guess he'll keep being made fun of, and he will understand why people are upset at him, and he'll keep being ignorant because he doesn't learn informal logic or biological evolution and doesn't seem like he really wants to. I guess that's my conclusion. So Eternal Insecurity, if you're watching this and going, wow, he's really mad at me. Yeah, because you're ignorant about things and you need to educate yourself, okay? It's that simple. You don't know what you're talking about. Period. End of story. Thanks for playing. And you irritated me by your condescending tone and attitude that you had towards me that was absolutely deliberate. I know that. You know it. We all know it. So go educate yourself. Read a book other than the Bible. Read some stuff other than apologetic web pages. Educate yourself on biological evolution a lot because you need to get it and you don't. Aaron Ra offers theists like you a thing where he will explain to your satisfaction how true this stuff is if you only agree to certain terms that he has, which I think are extraordinarily fair. You get basically a college education for free if you want it. There's zero excuse. So the next time I hear from this guy, it better be on Aaron Ra's channel learning about biological evolution. I'm done. And I'm tired of people being ignorant and it seems like wanting to remain ignorant about reality. There's gaps. No, there isn't. Not really. There's a gap. There's a gap. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. Yeah. Anyways, I'm done with him. I'm done. I'm just done. I give up. He's you guys, girls, and robots, go comment on his video for me and tell him why he's wrong. Because I'm done. I just can't anymore with this nonsense. If he had bothered to just get a little bit of information about biological evolution before saying what he said, there's gaps. Oh my God. God, just God. It frustrates me so much to see a mind go to waste. It really does. Oh, well. Next time, we've got part 1 to this other guy's response video that I'm going to cover because he whispers in his video like he's really quiet. Last time we couldn't even understand his audio. This time it's just really low. So I made a video about that where I whispered as a joke to introduce that series, and it will be a series of videos covering his videos. I don't know if I'm gonna record it live, do it live, or record them or whatever, because like he's wrong and I need to point out the logical fallacies. All right, I don't know. Until next time, try not to go insane when someone doesn't understand biological evolution. And after that, keep being skeptical. Wait, that didn't make a lot of sense. Just, what? Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of comments that he'll keep getting because he just doesn't know. Oh, wait. I'll leave you guys and girls with one more thing because this needs to be highlighted. Eternal Insecurity said to Tilting Windmill on my video, there's no evidence of God. He said, what I have found interesting in recent days is that atheists demand in quotes, more than philosophical argument alone, while not offering anything more than philosophical alone in their stance. Well, it's like saying that I keep saying words because you're using words. I have evidence that things are real. You don't. The end.